Hello everyone, a very good evening. Today we are here for an interview session. So just before that we'll introduce ourselves. My name is Elvinus and together with me.
Ronald Joseph. My name is Ronald Joseph. Followed by.
My name is Nagendran.
And the last me, Arvind Krishnan here.
Alright, so today we have a teacher with us here who was also my Moet teacher back then in Form 6. Puan Rozianti binti Jantan. She's also a teacher who guides choral speaking and all those English debate competitions and stuff. So teacher, welcome to this interview session.
Hi,
Hi, teacher.
teacher.
Hi,
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 teacher.
hello. I'm Puan Rozy binti Jantan from SMK St. George Taiping.
So teacher, maybe you could introduce to us shortly, like maybe how you became a teacher, or maybe how long you have taught in St. George's or different school.
Okay, I've been teaching since 1998. So this year, 23 years of teaching, and I've been in St. George for 15 years. I think 15 years. I've been teaching in St. George.
Before St. George's teacher.
Before in St. George's, my first school was in Tapah area, my hometown, and for 3 years. And then I got married. Then I transferred to SMK Redang Panjang, somewhere in Selama, for I think 5 to 6 years. And then I transferred to Taiping because I bought a house here. Then ever since then, um, I was in St. George until now.
Alright, teacher, thank you so much for your short introduction. We will now move on.
Okay.
So, our first question for the interview today is, tell us about the materials you use in your listening and speaking classroom to support your teaching. It can be anything, video, presentation, or whatever you use for our oral skills,
Materials.
teacher.
Um, you mean like song group? Is it?
Yes, something like that.
I have I have a lot of sources apart from whatever suggested in the resource book we have. I also a lot of time use song in teaching, where I scramble the song and then ask them to listen and then they rearrange. And I use a lot of YouTube in the classroom. Um, like how they mimic a speaker, a native speaker, and then they try to use the pronunciation because speaking is not actually delivering whatever you want to, but also how to speak perfectly as how the native speaker is using it. So usually they'll hear to one speech. If you go through YouTube, there's like one there'll be like English speech with subtitles. So what they did will be memorizing and follow exactly the tone, intonations, and how the native speakers are using the language. Okay, so I think that there are a lot of things that are implemented that are amongst the favorite ones that I used to use in classroom.
Alright, teacher, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so it's my turn to ask. So I hope you're
Alright.
doing good, madam. Okay, so my second question will be, how do you incorporate technology in your lessons to enhance the learning experience?
As I mentioned earlier, most of my
Mhm.
teaching, I think I incorporated technology with the use of handphones. You can ask Alvinus during my class, usually they bring handphones to school for so many
Uh-huh.
reasons. For research, um, they even do videos. During your time, you did videos, right, Alvinus? We actually do a lot of things. They have like group work, and then they are supposed to show it to their friends, and their friends are going to evaluate. So these are the things I usually use a lot of handphones And then presentations, we use a lot of YouTube's. Technologies always come handy when you teach language.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much.
Hi, teacher. I'll be asking the third question.
Okay,
So,
Ronald.
the third question is, what are your strengths in the curriculum? In bracket, speaking skills.
Um, I am actually trainers for St. George's speakers. I was trainers for the debate team as well. I've been like training debate team and also the public speakers for our school. I think since 10, 11 years back. And our debate team was one of the strongest team. I think when is it, Alvinus, that we made to the national level? We were second after Selangor. I think it was held in Shah Alam. So my strength actually on how to make students confident using the language orally.
I
So that is why I love teaching speaking a lot to the students.
Okay. Pass
All
on
right.
to the next question.
All right. Next
Okay.
questions.
Thank you, Ronald. So the fourth question is actually, what is the method of delivering for oral communication instruction in public elementary schools? So this is the questions. And what is the your point of view, Miss?
We talk about method of delivery. There are a lot of methods on how you can actually teach oral communication. It can start off with memorizing first or mimicking. All right, you can. I mean, even but that is not actually told when you did your degree level. It only come after a few years of teaching, then you actually come up with this method. You can learn so many theories during your degree period, but only when you are faced with your students, then you know which method actually suits your students. Usually, I will start with memorizing first, because since this English is not their first language, what they have to do is to expose themselves to how the native speakers use the language. So usually I will ask them to first memorize something. I mean, try to sound like a native speaker. If you want to do right, do it right. So after they have done with that, then only I go towards impromptu. I might be testing them with um, a few topics that they can like deliver it impromptu. um, that one comes after they have confidence in constructing sentences. Will that be fine? All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Teacher, I'll be asking the fifth question. So the fifth
All
question
right.
is, what are the reasons behind students' poor speaking proficiency? So you have been a teacher for a few years now, and you have met many
Yeah.
students. So you will be
Yes.
able to identify the poor speaking also. What are the reasons behind students' poor speaking proficiency? Do let us know.
Okay. All right. After 23 years of teaching, I believe in only one. Since English is not your first language, one thing is you don't have the confidence. But the thing is, why don't you have the confidence? Because one, your knowledge on the language is very limited. So you do not know the actual rules. You do not have enough vocabulary. So you don't have the confidence. Once you don't have the confidence, then you cannot produce. Speaking is the most difficult part, similar to writing. Once you are not good with production, you don't have the knowledge, then you definitely cannot produce. So speaking, I think, would be the highest level of um, challenge that you have to go through. Even when I did my TASA program, actually 6 years, 2 years of matrix and 4 years of degree. So during my 2 years of matrix, I still couldn't actually gain my confidence. Only after I go through my degree program, after 1 or 2 years, I think it takes me like 4 years to be fully confident on using the language. Okay, so it's not easy. So when one day you become the teacher, you have to understand that they are not from first language. English is not their first language. It might be their fifth and sixth language. So bear in mind that they do not have the confidence because they do not have the knowledge. So this is the role of the teacher where you have to provide that before you ask them to produce, before you start asking them to speak. Okay?
Teacher, besides like level of confidence, do you think that like the family background or not being exposed to the English or the surrounding could make them also be poor in their
Okay,
speaking
in that case,
proficiency?
then I think lack of practice. You cannot blame exposure because you have a lot of gadgets to expose you to all these things. You cannot be blaming your parents are not using the language. Both my parents are not using the language at all at home. I do not come from English speaking background family, but I do survive. Why? Because I practice a lot. I love to sing. This is what I did back then. I love to sing. I even like dream in English because I love the language. So you cannot be blaming others. It's you. You do not practice. The person themselves, the students themselves who do not try to, make themselves, confident with the language. You cannot be keep on blaming parents are not using the background. You are exposed. There's a lot of, materials, your gadgets, your games are all in English. So it's not a matter of blaming other people. It's you. You want to, improve. You have to practice a lot. So practice, lack of practice to me. They don't practice a lot.
Thank you, teacher. I'll pass on to the next question.
Alright, so back to me again for the next question.
Okay.
So the next question is, do the assessments based on aura oral in class improve the ability to acquire the particular skills?
To a certain extent, is yes. Malaysian students without exam, they're not going to do anything. So assessment is needed as first step towards improvement. But I still believe that learning is a lifelong process. You cannot be just say that you achieve certain standard just because of the exam and you do nothing else after that. Okay?
Okay, next question.
So all right, teacher. Coming back to me, so I'll be asking the seventh question.
Okay.
So,
All right.
so in terms of our oral ability, what kind of
Okay.
evolution do you use the most? And is it true that it aids student in improving their oral acuity? Acuity, yeah.
Evaluation, you can only evaluate speaking ability through presentation, and then your listening
Mm-hmm.
ability through tests, like a test sheet. So what? Once they listen, they can understand, they are able to answer. If let's say speaking, once they do the presentation, I am rest assured that they are on the right track. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe, what was the second part? Whether it's actually improving them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do believe assessment evaluations actually one step to achieve whatever desired level that we want. But that, as I said earlier, it's only one step. There are a lot of other steps. You cannot be relying only on evaluations.
All right. Can you
Okay.
do you mind to mention what are the steps that besides of do how to say evaluating people by speaking, doing having a
Okay.
test?
Okay, apart from presentation in class and then
Mm-hmm.
tests, I usually encourage my students to participate in all the competitions. I
Mm-hmm.
am a very, pro towards whatever competitions. And usually in school, we organize things. I always go and see the principal and ask them to come up with whatever competition possible for all this speaking activity.
All right, thank you, Miss. Like it will definitely help the students. So I'll pass to the next question now.
Okay.
Uh, Thank you, Parveen. So the next question is
Mhm.
about what are the activities you implement in the class that encourage students to speak? This is the question.
Okay. Apart from the video that we usually have, usually they have. I will start with group work. That will be my first. If let's say that is my first class with them, I will assign them group work. In that group work, they are supposed to produce videos. Okay. The recent one I did was uh, my school. So they are supposed to introduce the school and then in their own ways. So they are going to do like a 12 minutes video. They use whatever application they know, they produce. And then usually I did Toastmaster activity. This is the, I think, the best activity that will encourage the students to speak in a smaller group. Are you familiar with the Toastmaster activity?
No,
No,
Okay,
miss.
Toastmaster activity. Usually, you will have table topics like some sort of like impromptu. The best thing about table Toastmaster is that you're going to do it in a small group among yourself. So you are less threatened because the teachers is not there. But there are always somebody there to listen to you. Your friends will be listening to you. So in that Toastmaster group, there'll be one person who take care of the time, one will take care of the topic, what are the topic they are going to talk about. So every meeting, usually they'll be given one topic and everybody is going to talk about the same topic. For example, the best day of your life. So everybody is going to talk about their best day of their life. And then there'll be one person who will be counting the R. We call that the R keeper. Where if let's say in between you're using the word like you're counting how many. So those things are not required in speaking. Okay, whatever fillers that you're using is not good for speaking skill. So there'll be one person who'll be counting all those how many times are you repeating? And then there's one person who will be like determining the weight of the content, and later on at the end of when everybody presented, then there'll be like announcing the winner, who are the best speaker, who show the most improvements. So they'll be doing this for a few rounds, then only they are ready for their actual speaking group for MUET. Have you like gone through MUET exam before?
yes.
So before they went for the actual MUET, so usually I start with Toastmaster, but I did not apply that to Alvin's group. We don't have Toastmaster, right? I found it only recently. It works. Okay.
Thank you, miss. And I pass the next question to my group mates.
All right.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Miss. It has been so many things we have been learning through
Okay.
this meeting. But so let me jump into the ninth question. So there are numbers of obstacles that can be obstruct our oral practice in the classroom. So do you mind us to share some challenges you have been experienced as a teacher?
Um, um, when your students do not have confidence on you. Okay. So usually during the first few meetings, I won't evaluate them. Just to, and then I'm not trying to show them that I know everything. So the best thing becoming a teacher is to go down to their level and make sure they are secured with us. So you have to gain their confidence. So challenge abstraction would be, how am I going to gain their confidence that I'll be helping them instead of becoming a teacher who tell you what is right and what is wrong. So I'm there to help them. So I'm going to, they call that language ego, how to lower down their language ego. Some of them refuse to learn the language because this teacher is going to just tell me that everything I did was wrong. So every time in the classroom, I must make sure that they are not threatened with my presence, and they are able to be confident with me. So that would be the main challenge. How are you going to gain your students' confidence on you so that they know you are there to help you instead of just pointing that you're this is right and this is wrong, right?
So, as a teacher, personally, how do you feel? Is it hard to face your students to enhance them in particular things? How do you think personally?
I never think that teaching is very hard. It's I'm so passionate with my career. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm born to become a teacher. I always make sure that my students are comfortable with me. So although there's a challenge, but I always welcome. It's not easy after. I mean, every year you're gonna teach the same thing. Like I'm teaching more after one batch, then another batch have been like repeating. If you are not passionate with that, you couldn't be doing that again and again, years after years.
True.
Okay, so I always welcome because each and every year I'll be receiving different types of students, and that actually made my day.
Right. Thank you so much for the valuable answer. So I'll pass to the last question now.
Okay.
Okay, our last question for today is, what's the biggest challenge in today's students face in our oral skills, especially during this pandemic time, teacher?
Um, what was the whose challenge actually? The students' challenge,
Yes,
or
students
is it my
challenge teacher.
the
No, no,
students' challenge?
students. Yeah.
Um, we have been talking again and again on how they are not confident in using the language, and then what to say, what their challenge actually. Maybe in this current situation with this COVID-19 around, less school time, they have lack of practice. The main thing is their lack of practice. It's not easy to have students to have Google Meet like this because they have like restrictions. Some of them doesn't have enough data, so I cannot force them to join my class like this all the time. So with lack of exposure, they are not using the language at home. I think that is the challenge. If you talk about the new norms, so their lack of practice. If let's say in the current situation where gadget is around, they might be able to speak, but their spellings are all over the place. If you aware, when you tweet or you write messages, you can see the language is actually deteriorating. You are not spelling it correctly, right? Like gotcha, wana, all this stuff. It's actually very, very grammatically wrong. But this is acceptable at your age because you're so used to texting. So, but in speaking, I think you cannot speak properly because you are not writing properly. I think that's it. That's it.
Okay, teacher. One more additional question. Uh, Wanted to ask.
Okay.
During this pandemic, especially, how do you all take the whole process of MUET, like reading, speaking, listening? There's one particular syllabus where we'll study normally, but now during this pandemic time, where online classes are being, being there. So how you
All
take
right.
it?
In terms of technique of answering, they are undergoing a new syllabus, which is different from what you have been. You've been experiencing, which is far better, uh, which is less difficult than what you have to write. Before this, you did the report writing. Now no more report writing. It's on replying emails. So I have done all that during the face-to-face schooling time few months back. So during this pandemic, uh, PDPR, home-based learning. What we did was only exercises. Listening and speaking, I'll do once a while. There's WhatsApp group for each group, and then I'll call them, I think, once a week for one group. But there's like delay, so it's not like perfectly done. There's a delay in speech. We have to wait. So in terms of timing, you cannot really time them well. That's a challenge also. But what to do?
True.
Okay, so you all wanna ask any questions?
Anything you want to know?
For me, no. I am not.
I'm clear with the instructions. I'm
Yeah.
very happy
Where's
talking to
Praveen?
you today.
Praveen lost? I cannot see Praveen here.
I'm not lost, but I think the camera is having some problem, technical issues.
I think because of your background.
I think
You're swollen. Okay.
yeah, in
All right.
between the
I
clouds.
do wish that each and every one of you manage to become a very good English teacher one day. Please be kind
Thank
to
you.
students. They are Malaysian. They are not native speaker. Okay?
Yes.
They are not native speaker. Just bear that in mind. And never show that you are too superior. You have all the knowledge. The more the knowledge you have, the lower you should be. Not telling the students that I know everything and you don't know anything. Okay?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wishing you all the best. It's so fun to have all of you here. Maybe you can come down to Taiping and we go and have a talk or go around makan-makan around Taiping.
Sure, why not?
Sure, miss.
Yeah.
Adam, I have a request from you. Another question, yeah. Um, you as a teacher, if you are giving advice to the
Advice.
student on aura.
Okay. What is the advice to the students?
Yes, what if you're giving advice to a student on speaking, what it will be?
I always say practice make perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I train my speakers, I have debaters. I'm producing speakers. I always tell them, nothing comes easy. Practice always makes perfect. I believe in only that.
Mm-hmm.
Practice, and practice.
So I think we'll end our interview session now.
Thank you.
All right.
So with that being said, thank you teacher for joining us, for spending your
Okay.
time with us. Despite your busy schedule, it's not easy. I understand.
It's okay. I'm so busy becoming a mother. That's all.
So stay safe everyone, and take care.
Yeah, you too. Especially you in Cheras. I think JB also, you're having problem a lot. COVID cases. Typing also, Alvinus.